Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Dramatized by Stephen Mulrine. With Gary Cady as the Savage, Jack Klaff as Mustapha Mond, the controller of Western Europe, Moir Leslie as Lenina Crowne, Jonathan Tafler as Bernard Marx, and Francis de la Tour as Linda. Brave New World.
And this is the fertilizer room. Now follow me, ladies and gentlemen. I shall begin at the beginning. These are the incubators. The week's supply of ova here, kept at blood heat. And the male gametes here, kept at 35 degrees, note, not 37.
Full blood heat sterilizes, sir?
Correct. After fertilization, of course, the ova are returned here to the incubators, where alphas and betas will remain until definitely bottled. Gammas, deltas, and epsilons, on the other hand, are brought out again to undergo Bokanovsky's process.
Bokanovsky, sir?
Yes. Essentially, Bokanovsky's process consists of a series of arrests of development. We check the normal growth, and paradoxically, the egg responds by budding. It takes 8 minutes for the tubes to go through. That's about as much as an egg can stand of hard X-rays. A few die, of course, but most put out 4 buds. Some as many as 8. They're returned to the incubators, the buds begin to develop, and after 2 days, they're suddenly chilled. Normal growth is arrested, and the buds, in turn, produce buds. They're then removed from the incubators, dosed with alcohol, growth is again checked, buds form, bud out of bud out of bud, and the embryos are then left to develop, by which time our original egg is in a fair way to becoming anything from 8 to 96 embryos. 96. A prodigious improvement on nature, I'm sure you'll agree.
Yes. Sir, I'm not sure I understand.
My dear boy, can't you see? Can't you see? Anyone?
Bokanovsky's process is one of the major instruments of social stability.
Precisely. Standard men and women in uniform batches. The whole of a small factory staffed with the products of a single Bokanovsky-fied egg. 96 identical twins working 96 identical machines. For the first time in history, you really know where you are. Community, identity, stability.
Community, identity, stability!
Yes! True, we can't Bokanovsky-fy indefinitely, but in exceptional cases, we can make one ovary yield us over 15,000 adult individuals. Mr. Forster.
Director.
Mr. Forster, can you tell us the record for a single ovary, please?
In this centre, sir, 16,012. That's in 189 batches of identicals. Of course, they've done much better in some of the tropical centres, but we mean to beat them if we can.
That's the spirit. Come along with us and give these students the benefit of your expert knowledge.
With pleasure, sir.
Really, Lenina? Do you mean to tell me you're still going out with Henry Forster?
But it's only about 4 months.
Lenina? Seriously, I do really think you ought to be careful. It's such horrible bad form to go on and on like this with one man. You know how strongly the director objects to anything intense or long drawn. Why, he'd be furious if he knew.
No.
Lenina? Well, there's no need to give him up. Just have somebody else from time to time, that's all. He has other girls, hasn't he?
But of course.
You see? That shows what he stands for, the strictest conventionality. And you really ought to be a little more promiscuous. One's got to make the effort. After all, everyone belongs to everyone else.
Yes, you're quite right, as usual. Everyone belongs to everyone else. I'll make the effort. Oh, isn't that divine?
Oh, Virginia, yes.
I wonder if there's a vibro-massage machine free. You know, to tell you the truth, Fanny, I'm beginning to get just a tiny a bit bored with nothing but Henry every day. Do you know Bernard Marx?
Oh, you don't mean to say...
Why not? Bernard's now for plus. Besides, he's asked me to go to one of the savage reservations with him.
But his reputation, Lenina. They say he spends most of his time by himself, alone.
Well, he won't be alone when he's with me. Anyhow, why are people so beastly to him? I think he's rather sweet.
Oh, he's so ugly.
I rather like his look.
And he's so small. They say somebody made a mistake when he was still in the bottle. Thought he was a gamma and put alcohol into his blood surrogate. That's why he's so stunted.
Oh, what nonsense.
Oh, that's true!
And here we have social predestination. 88 cubic meters of card index brought up to date every morning.
So many individuals of such and such quality. Unforeseen wastages promptly made good.
Promptly. If you knew the amount of overtime I had to put in after the last Japanese earthquake.
Let's take the escalator. The predestinators send their figures to the fertilizers, who supply the embryos they ask for, and the bottles come here to be predestinated in detail. Give them a few figures, Mr. Forster.
Well, each of these racks, though you can't see it, is travelling at the rate of 8 meters a day. And each bottle will remain on the conveyor for 267 days.
And on the 267th morning, daylight in the decanting room. Independent existence.
But in the interval, we've managed to do a lot to them. Oh, a very great deal.
Well, all I can say is that I'm going to accept. And I do want to see a savage reservation.
You're hopeless, Lenina. I give you up.
Do I look all right?
Perfect. Very pneumatic.
Oh, Fanny, darling, let's make peace. Look.
Oh, Lenina, what a perfectly sweet Malthusian belt.
It's real Morocco surrogate. Do you like it?
Oh,
it holds the regulation supply of contraceptives, too.
I simply must get one.
Henry Foster gave it me. I'm wearing it this evening. 2 rounds of obstacle golf before dark, then the Westminster Abbey Cabaret. It's Calvin Stokes.
Oh, and it's 16 sex softeners. It's wonderful.
Yes. Then back to Henry's room, half gram of Soma.
Oh, Lenina, do ask Henry where he got that belt.
Of course, we don't content ourselves with merely hatching out embryos. Any cow could do that. We also predestine and condition. We decant our babies as socialized human beings, as alphas or epsilons, as future sewage workers or future directors of hatcheries.
Thank you, Mr. Forster.
As you can see, the mechanic here, a beta plus?
That's correct.
Is reducing the number of revolutions per minute. The blood surrogate goes round slower, therefore passes through the lungs at longer intervals, therefore gives the embryo less oxygen. Nothing like oxygen shortage for keeping an embryo below par.
But why do you want to keep the embryo below par?
Hasn't it occurred to you that an epsilon embryo must have an epsilon environment as well as an epsilon heredity?
The lower the caste, the shorter the oxygen. The first organ to be affected is the brain, and in epsilons we just don't need human intelligence. Now over here, just past the 1100 meter mark on rack 3, we have a batch of embryonic rocket engineers. And this special mechanism keeps their containers in constant rotation to improve their sense of balance. We slacken off the circulation when they're right way up, so that they're upside down. They learn to associate topsy-turvydom with well-being. In fact, they're only truly happy when they're standing on their heads. Now, I'd like to show you some very interesting conditioning for Alpha Plus intellectuals. We have a big batch of them on rack 5.
I'm sorry, Mr. Forster. 10 to 3. No time for the intellectual embryos, I'm afraid. We must go up to the nurseries before the children have finished their afternoon sleep. Some other time, perhaps.
Bernard, I was looking for you.
Lenina, hello.
I wanted to talk to you about our New Mexico trip. I'd simply love to come with you for a week in July. That is, if you still want to have me.
Look, Lenina, hadn't we better talk about it somewhere else?
Why?
I mean, with all these people about.
How funny you are. Now, you'll give me at least a week's warning, won't you?
Lenina,
Bernard, what on earth's the matter? Oh, anyway, I must fly, Bernard. I'm meeting Henry Foster on the roof. Let me know in good time about the date. Bye.
Well, I should say she was pretty, eh? Pneumatic, too. And how?
Yes.
I say, Marx, you don't look glum. What you need is a gram of soma. 1 cubic centimetre cures 10 gloomy sentiments.
Shut up!
Well, really? What's the matter with the fellow?
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the infant nursery. And before we enter the neo-Pavlovian conditioning rooms, a little background. Once upon a time, while our Ford was still on Earth, there was a little Polish boy called Rubin Rabinovich. You know what Polish is, I suppose?
A dead language, sir, like French and German.
And what about parent?
Well, sir, when the babies were decanted...
Born?
Well, then they were the parents. I mean, the parents were the father and mother.
The mother, yes. These are unpleasant facts, I know. Most historical facts are unpleasant. Anyway, in those days of gross viviparous reproduction, children were always brought up by their parents and not in state conditioning centres. And little Reuben's mother and father, one evening, by an oversight, happened to leave the radio turned on in his bedroom. While the child was asleep, a broadcast program from London started to come through. And the next morning, to the astonishment of his mother and father, little Reuben woke up repeating, word for word, a long lecture by a curious old writer, one of the very few whose works have been permitted to come down to us, George Bernard Shaw. The principle of sleep teaching or hypnopedia had been discovered. However, those early experimenters were on the wrong track. They thought that hypnopedia could be made an instrument of intellectual education, whereas if they'd only started on moral education... Let's go in. Now, everyone, absolute silence, please. Mustn't wake the babies. Nurse?
Yes, Director.
What's the lesson this afternoon?
Well, we had elementary sex for the first 40 minutes, but now it's switched over to elementary class consciousness.
Elementary class consciousness. Let's have it a little louder.
Stupid to be able to read or write. Besides, they wear black, which is a beastly color. I'm so glad I'm a beta. Alpha children wear grey. They work much harder than we do because they're so frightfully clever. I'm really awfully glad I'm a beta because I don't work so hard. And then we are much better than the gammas and deltas. Gammas are stupid. They all wear green, and delta children wear khaki. Oh no, I don't want to play with delta children. And epsilons are still worse.
Yes.
They're too stupid.
They'll have that repeated 40 or 50 times more before they wake. 120 times, 3 times a week, for 30 months. After which, they go on to a more advanced lesson. This is the greatest moralizing and socializing force of all time.
I really enjoyed the golf, Henry. Let's just go to the Feelies this evening, shall we? I hear the new one at the Alhambra's first rate. There's a love scene on a bearskin rug. They say it's marvellous. Every hair of the bear reproduced, the most amazing tactual effects.
All right. Look, Lenina, that's the Hounslow Feely studio now. Do you see?
They must be changing the shift. All those gammas and epsilons, they're like ants. I suppose they're queuing up for a place in one of those monorail things. I'm glad we don't have to. Khaki's a hideous colour, don't you think?
Of course. And that Slough crematorium now will soon be home.
Henry, why do the smokestacks have those things like balconies round them?
Oh, phosphorus recovery. More than 1.5 kilos per adult corpse. Yes, it's fine to think we can go on being socially useful even after we're dead, making plants grow.
True. But isn't it queer that alphas and betas won't make any more plants grow than those nasty little gammas and deltas and epsilons down there?
All men are physico-chemically equal. Besides, even epsilons are useful.
Oh, yes. Everyone works for everyone else. I suppose epsilons don't really mind being epsilons.
Of course they don't. How can they?
I'm glad I'm not one.
But if you were an epsilon, your conditioning would have made you no less thankful that you weren't a beta or an alpha. Everybody's happy now.
Yes, everybody's happy now. Well, I'm not sure about Bernard Marx.
Him. He's a rhinoceros. You can't teach a rhinoceros tricks, and some men are like that. They don't respond properly to conditioning, poor devils. Bernard's one of them. He's pretty harmless, huh?
Pretty disquieting, all the same. That mania of his for doing things in private. I mean, what can you do in private? Apart from going to bed, of course, and you can't do that all the time. Do you know what he wanted to do our first afternoon together? Go walking in the Lake District. Land on top of Skiddaw and walk for a couple of hours in the heather, alone with me.
But surely you'd be alone all night.
No, he meant alone for talking.
Talking? What about?
Himself. He was really miserable the whole afternoon, absolutely refused a half-gram of soma. I'd rather be myself, he said. Myself and nasty, not somebody else, however jolly.
1 cubic centimetre.
Cures 10 gloomy sentiments, of course it does. And a gram in time saves 9. He said he wanted to be more on his own, not just a cell in the social body.
Really?
It's horrible. How can he talk like that about not wanting to be part of the social body? After all, everyone works for everyone else. We can't do without anyone. Even epsilons.
Even epsilons are useful.
Exquisite little creature, isn't she? You know, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to tell you may sound incredible. But for a very long period before the time of our Ford, and even for some generations afterwards, erotic play between children was regarded as abnormal. And not only abnormal, actually immoral.
Sir, do you mean children weren't allowed to amuse themselves?
Even adolescents, like yourself. Barring a little surreptitious autoerotism and homosexuality, absolutely nothing.
Nothing?
In most cases, until they were over 20 years old.
20 years old?
20. I told you you'd find it incredible.
But, sir, what happened? What were the results?
I can tell you, the results were terrible. Terrible.
Oh, controller. What an unexpected pleasure. Students, what are you thinking of? This is the controller. This is his Fordship Mustapha Mond, the resident controller for Western Europe, one of the 10 world controllers.
Yes, Director. I'll take over from here, I think.
You mean you'll stay and actually talk to them?
It's all right, Thomas. I won't corrupt them. Now, you all remember, I suppose, that beautiful and inspired saying of our Fords, history is bunk. History is bunk.
Shut lips, sleeping faces, every something machine, every stopped machine. Yes. Shut lips, sleeping faces, every stopped machine. The dumb and the dumb and littered, that's it, yes. Littered places where crowds have been. Shut lips, sleeping faces, Every stopped machine, the dumb and littered places where crowds have been... Yes, Helmholtz, Emotional Engineering.
Helmholtz, it's me, Bernard.
Oh.
I'm at the door. Are you busy?
Yes. I mean, no, of course not. Come in.
Hello.
Come in, please, and sit down.
Helmholtz, where on earth have you been hiding these days?
I've just been working on some new poems, that's all. You know, this last week or two, I've been cutting all my committees and all my girls. You can't imagine what a hullabaloo they're making about it down at the college. Still, I think it's worth it. I think. But did you ever feel, Bernard, as though you had something inside you? Some sort of extra power that you aren't using?
You mean all the emotions one might be feeling if things were different?
Not quite. No, I'm thinking of a queer feeling I sometimes get, a feeling that I've got something important to say and the power to say it, only I just don't know what it is. And I can't make any use of the power.
But your things are good, Helmholtz.
No, as far as they go. But they go such a little way. You know, words can be like X-rays. Well, if you use them properly. They'll go through anything. You read and you're pierced. You see, that's one of the things I try to teach my students, how to write piercingly. What on earth's the good of being pierced by an article about a Ford's Day community sing or the latest improvement in scent organs? Actually, you know, I have been working on something.
Shh! I think there's somebody at the door. I'm sorry. I suppose I've let things get on my nerves a bit. Actually, I'm taking Lenina Crowne to New Mexico with me.
Try to imagine what living with one's family was like, what a home was like. Home. A few small rooms, stiflingly over-inhabited by a man, a periodically teeming woman, a rabbit hole, a midden, reeking with emotion. What suffocating intimacies, what dangerous, insane, obscene relationships. Maniacally, the mother brooding over her children. Her children, brooding over them like a cat over its kittens. But a cat that could talk. A cat that could say, my baby, over and over again. My baby, and oh, at my breast, the little hands, the hunger, and that unspeakable, agonizing pleasure till at last my baby sleeps. My baby sleeps with a bubble of white milk at the corner of his mouth. My little baby sleeps. Yes, you may well shudder. And our Ford, or our Freud, as he chose to call himself whenever he spoke of psychological matters, our Freud was the first to reveal the appalling dangers of family life. The world was full of mothers, therefore of every kind of perversion from sadism to chastity, full of brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, full of madness and suicide. And there were also husbands, wives, lovers, everywhere, exclusiveness.
But, sir, surely everyone belongs to everyone else.
Yes. Indeed. No wonder those poor pre-moderns were mad and wicked and miserable. My love, my baby, they were forced to feel strongly, and feeling strongly in solitude, in hopelessly individual isolation. How could they be stable?
Stability!
Yes, stability, the primal and ultimate need. Stability.
Well, it's most disrespectful.
Yes. I wonder what his excuse will be this time. This is the third Solidarity service in a row he's been late.
And it's not as if we can start without him.
No.
It's a bit thick. Fanny, is it true that Lenina Crowne's having him?
Well, not yet.
I mean, she's so pneumatic. And he's so...
He isn't really.
You're late, Mr. Marx.
I'm sorry, Madam President. I didn't mean to...
Don't let it happen again. Now, let us worship our Ford with the singing of the first Solidarity hymn.
We are 12, oh make us one, like drops within the social river. Oh make us now together run, as swift
shining flivver.
What on earth kept you, Bernard? What were you playing this afternoon?
Nothing.
Did you say nothing?
I wasn't playing anything, Lenina. I just wanted to be by myself.
Ford.
For when we end, our larger life has but begun.
I drink to my
You
annihilation.
need soma,
I drink to
Bernard.
my annihilation.
Oh, look, it's strawberry flavour, my favourite.
I don't want any.
Bernard, you must. It's an essential part of the service.
I drink to my annihilation.
I drink to my annihilation.
I drink to my annihilation.
I drink to
Bernard.
my annihilation.
I drink to my annihilation.
To the greater being.
I drink to the greater being.
I drink to the imminence of his coming.
I drink to the imminence of his coming.
Ford, Ford, Ford.
Oh, Ford, Ford, Ford.
Oh, Ford, Ford, Ford.
Oh, Ford, Ford, Ford.
Listen.
I hear him.
Listen.
I hear him.
The feet of the greater being.
He's coming.
Feet of the greater being are on the stairs.
Yes, yes, yes.
Feel how the greater being comes.
Yes.
Feel how the greater being comes.
Yes.
Feel how the greater being comes.
Yes.
Orgy, orgy.
Orgy, orgy.
Orgy, orgy.
Orgy, orgy.
Orgy, orgy.
Orgy, orgy.
Orgy.
Oh, Bernard!
Orgy,
Isn't it wonderful?
Wonderful.
orgy, orgy, orgy.
Orgy, 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 orgy,
Ah, Mr. Marx. Sit down.
Thank you, Director.
Now, I'm not at all pleased with the reports I receive of your behaviour outside working hours.
Director, I have a permit for you to initial. It's been signed by the controller.
My workers must be above suspicion, particularly those of the highest castes. Alphas are so conditioned that they don't have to be infantile in their emotional behaviour, but that's all the more reason for their making a special effort to conform. And so, Mr. Marx, a permit for the New Mexican reservation?
Yes, sir. Sir, is something the matter?
I must have been your age. How long ago? 20 years, I suppose, nearer 25. I had the same idea as you. Wanted to have a look at the savages. Got a permit for New Mexico and went there for my summer holiday with the girl I was having at the time. I think she had yellow hair. Anyhow, she was pneumatic, particularly pneumatic, I remember that. Well, we went there, looked at the savages and all that, and then, well, she got lost. We'd gone riding up one of those revolting mountains, and after lunch we went to sleep, or at least I did. She must have gone for a walk, alone.
Alone?
When I woke up, she wasn't there. And the most frightful thunderstorm I've ever seen was just bursting on us. I searched and I shouted, but there was no sign of her. She must have fallen into a gully somewhere or been eaten by a mountain lion. Ford knows. Anyhow, it was horrible. It upset me very much at the time. More than it ought to have done, I dare say. I mean, after all, the social body persists, although the component cells may change. I actually dream about it sometimes.
You must have had a terrible shock.
Yes. Well, don't imagine that I had any indecorous relation with the girl. Nothing emotional, nothing long drawn. It was all perfectly healthy and normal. And, Mr. Marx, let me say once more, if ever I hear again of any lapse from the proper standard of infantile decorum, I shall ask for your transfer to a sub-centre, preferably Iceland.
You can go to the bottomless past.
What did you say?
The permit, sir. For the Savage Reservation. I do need your signature.
Give it here.
Everyone belongs to everyone else.
Everyone works for everyone else.
When the
Everyone works for everyone
community
else.
reels.
Everyone
Community,
works
identity,
for everyone
stability.
else.
The community
Everyone works for
Identity,
everyone else.
stability. Community, identity, stability.
stability. Community, identity, stability.
Look, Bernard, they have 60 escalator squash courts and obstacle golf. Oh, it sounds simply too lovely. I almost wish we could stay here in Santa Fe. 60 escalator squash courts.
Well, there won't be any in the reservation. And no television, no hot water even. If you feel you can't stand it, stay here till I come back.
Of course I can stand it. I only said it was lovely here because... Well, because... Progress is lovely, isn't
500
it?
repetitions once a week from 13 to 17.
What did you say?
I said that progress was lovely. That's why you mustn't come to the reservation unless you really want to.
But I do want to.
Very well, then. First, we have to meet the warden. Oh, Ford.
Bernard?
I've just remembered, I've left the eau de cologne tap running in my bathroom. It cost me a fortune by the time we get back. I'll telephone Helmholtz Watson. He'll go round and turn it off.
Bernard?
A deciliter of eau de cologne every
Bernard!
minute. That's 6 litres an hour.
Have a gram of soma, then it won't matter. Bernard!
Oh. What do you mean? I don't understand. The director...
He's looking for someone to take my place now. Helmholtz says it's all been decided. I'm going to be sent to Iceland.
Oh,
It's so unfair of him not to give me another chance. I was going to...
Was and will make me ill.
Yes, I can take a gram and only am.
Well, it's true, Bernard.
Mr. Marx, Miss Crowne, are you ready to leave? Upwards of 5,000 kilometres of fencing at 60,000 volts.
Really?
To touch the fence is instant death. There's no escape from a savage reservation. No escape. Those who are actually born in the reservation, yes, children are still actually born there and are destined to die there.
How many people live in the reservation?
Oh, perhaps around 60,000 Indians and half-breeds. Our inspectors occasionally visit, but otherwise they have no communication whatever with the civilized world. They still preserve their repulsive habits and customs. Marriage, if you know what that is, my dear young lady.
You don't say so.
Oh, yes, indeed. And monstrous superstitions of Christianity, totemism, ancestor worship. Not to mention extinct languages such as Zuni and Spanish and Athapaska.
Oh, look, Bernard. There's the fence now.
Yes, that's right. And those are bones, electrocuted. They never learn. And they never will learn. We'll be in Malpais in a few moments at the rest house. And there's a dance this evening at the Pueblo. Be funny, I expect. Everything they do is funny. And remember, they're perfectly tame. The savages won't do you any harm. They've got enough experience of gas bombs to know they mustn't play any tricks.
Vamos pronto. Están por comenzar. Vamos. Pronto, señor.
Oh, Bernard, I don't like it. And I don't like that man, that guide. He smells.
Lenina, he's an Indian.
I wish we could have brought the helicopter. I hate walking. Oh. Bernard, what's that? What are those men doing? Bernard, those are snakes.
Pronto, vamos, vamos.
Come on, Lenina.
I don't like it. I don't like it a bit. Bernard, wait for me. Ford, what's that in the hut?
It's a family, Lenina.
Bernard, you're not going in there. How can they live like this? Cleanliness is next to Fordliness. It's not possible. How can they?
Well, they've been doing it for the last 5,000 or 6,000 years, so I suppose they must be used to it by now.
But cleanliness is next to Fordliness. Everyone knows that.
Yes, and civilization is sterilization. But, Lenina, these people have never heard of our Ford, and they aren't civilized, so there's no point in it.
What's the matter with him?
He's old, that's all. He's just an old man.
Old? But our director
doctor's old. Lots of people are old. They're not like that.
That's because we don't allow them to be like that. We preserve them from diseases. We keep their internal secretions artificially balanced. We don't permit their magnesium-calcium ratio to fall below what it was at 30. We give them... Lenina, you're not listening.
Bernard. Bernard, that woman has a baby at her breast. It's awful. It's indecent. Oh, we ought not to have come here. Oh, Ford, I've forgotten my soma. I must have left the bottle down at the rest house. Oh, Bernard.
I haven't any either.
Oh, let's get out of here. I don't like it.
Bernard, what's he doing? Where have all these people come from?
Reminds me of Ford's Day communities sing.
Oh.
It's some kind of primitive ritual. We're very fortunate to see this, Lenina.
What's happening now? Who's that boy?
I don't know. Perhaps he's the victim. Some sort of sacrifice.
Sacrifice? Bernard, what are they going to do to him? Oh! Oh, Ford, he's bleeding. Oh, it's awful. Oh, stop them! Stop them! Oh, the blood! It's too awful! Oh, Ford, I wish I had my soma! Ay!
Lenina, please.
Hello. Good morrow.
Hello.
You're civilized, aren't you? You come from the other place, outside the reservation.
Who on earth are you?
Oh, a most unhappy gentleman.
I want my soma! A gram is better than a dam.
I ought to have been there. Why wouldn't they let me be the sacrifice? They could have had twice as much blood from me. The multitudinous seas incarnadine. But they wouldn't let me. They disliked me for my complexion. It's always been like that. Always.
Do you mean to say that you wanted to be hit with that whip?
Yes. For the sake of the Pueblo. To make the rain come and the corn grow. And to please Pukong and Jesus. And then to show that I can bear pain without crying out. Yes. And to show that I am a man.
But who are you? Where have you come from? You're surely not one of them.
No. We are strangers here. My name is John. My mother, Linda.
Your mother?
Yes. You must meet her. My mother came here from the other place long ago, before I was born. She came with a man who was my father, and they went walking in those mountains over there to the north.
Really?
Linda, my mother, fell down a steep place and hurt her head.
Go on.
Well, some hunters from Malpais found her and brought her here to the Pueblo.
And what happened to the man? What happened to your father?
She never saw him again. She said his name was Tomakin.
Tomakin? Might it have been Thomas?
Perhaps. But he must have flown away, back to the other place, without her. A bad, unkind, unnatural man.
Oh, he's that all right.
Yes. So, I was born here, in Malpais. Come. Come with me.
Oh, my dear, if you knew how glad, after all these years, A civilized face, so beautiful. Yes, and civilized clothes. I thought I'd never see a piece of real acetate silk again. And those adorable viscose velveteen shorts. I must touch you.
No, please. Please
my
don't.
dear, I've still got all my
Bernard,
old clothes. The
Bernard,
ones
she's
I came in,
disgusting.
put away
She's
in a
so
box.
fat.
I'll show you
Two of her
them.
teeth are missing
The
and those
acetate's all gone into
wrinkles.
holes.
Lenina, she's just
Oh,
old.
for God's sake,
My
Bernard, she wanted to
contraceptive
kiss me.
bandolier. Isn't it
She
pretty
smells
and white?
horrible.
Oh, I must
But
say,
she's
your
obviously
green
never had a
Morocco
bath,
is
and she's
even
simply
lovelier.
reeking of that nasty stuff they put into the
But
Delta
it
of
did me any
Cylon
good,
bottles.
that bandolier.
Too revolting.
I suppose
I'm going to be
John's
sick.
told you, has he? What I had to suffer? Not a gram of soma to be had. I was so ashamed. Just think of it. Me, a beater, having a baby. Put yourself in my place.
Bernard, I am going to be sick.
You don't know how it happened. I swear it. But all the same, it happened. And of course that wasn't anything like the abortion centre here. Is it still down in Chelsea, by the way?
Yes, yes.
A lovely pink glass tower. And still floodlit on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yes. Bernard, where are you going?
It's all right. John's taken me to see the village.
Back from Stoke Poges to a hot bath and a vibro-vacuum massage. You've no idea how it upsets me, all this dirt. I had an awful cut on my head when they first brought me here. You can't imagine what they used to put on it.
Please.
Just filth. Civilization is sterilization, I used to say to them, but of course they didn't understand. How could they? And in the end, I suppose I got used to it. Anyway, how can you keep things clean when there isn't hot water laid on? And look at these clothes. This beastly wool isn't like acetate. It lasts and lasts. And you're supposed to mend it if it gets torn. But I'm a beater. I worked in the fertilizing room. Nobody ever taught me anything like that. Throw them away and buy new. The more stitches, the less riches. Isn't that right?
Well, of course it is.
Mending's antisocial. But it's all different here. It's like living with lunatics. For instance, take the way they have one another here. Mad, I tell you, absolutely mad. Everybody belongs to everyone else, don't they? Don't they?
Yes, yes. Everyone belongs to everyone else.
Well, not here, they don't.
It's as though we were living on different planets in different centuries. A mother and all this dirt and gods and old age and disease. It's almost inconceivable. I shall never understand unless you explain.
Explain what?
Everything. From the beginning. As far back as you can remember.
As far back as I can remember. I remember a night. It was very hot. We'd eaten a lot of tortillas and sweet corn. My mother said, "Come and lie down, baby." We lay down together in the big bed. I said, "Sing," and Linda sang. After a while, her voice got fainter and fainter. Suddenly, there was a loud noise, and I awoke. A man was standing by the bed. Enormous. Frightening. He was saying something to Linda, and Linda was laughing. His hair was like 2 black ropes, and round his arm was a lovely silver bracelet with blue stones in it. Linda said to the man, "Not with John here."
Nobody's supposed to belong to more than one person here. And if you have people in the ordinary way, the others think you're wicked and antisocial. They hate and despise you. Once a lot of women came and made a scene because their men came to see me. Well, why not?
Why not, indeed?
And then they rushed at me. Oh, no. It was too awful. I can't tell you about it.
Oh, Linda, please.
They're so hateful, the women here. Mad and cruel. And of course they know nothing about Malthusian drill or bottles or decanting or anything of that sort. So they're having children all the time, like dogs.
That's revolting.
After that, Pope used to come often. He had a big gourd full of stuff called mescal. But Linda said it ought to have been called soma, only it made you feel ill afterwards. I hated Pope. I hated them all. All the men who came to see Linda. The happiest times were when she told me about the other place. about the lovely music that comes out of a box, and the delicious things to eat and drink, and the pictures you can hear and feel and smell as well as see, and the happiness there every day.
Oh, yes, every day.
Sometimes, when we children were tired with too much playing, one of the old men of the Pueblo would talk to us. Of the great transformer of the world, and the long fight between left hand and right hand, between wet and dry, of Awanawilona who made a great fog by thinking in the night, of Earth Mother and Sky Father, of Jesus and Pukong, of the Black Stone at Laguna, and the Great Eagle, and Our Lady of Acoma. Then Linda taught me to read. I learned quickly and easily. One day, it must have been soon after my 12th birthday, I came home and found a book I had never seen before lying on the floor in the bedroom. I picked it up and looked at the title page. The book was called The Complete Works of William Shakespeare. I opened the book at random. Nay, but to live in the rank sweat of an enseamed bed, stewed in corruption, honeying and making love over the nasty sty.
He tried to kill poor Wahusiwa once. Or was it Pope? Just because I used to have them sometimes. Because I never could make him understand that that was what civilized people ought to do. Being mad's infectious, I believe. And John seems to have caught it from the Indians. Of course he was with them a lot, even though they were beastly to him and wouldn't let him do all the things the other boys did.
Which was a good thing, I should think.
Well, it made it easier for me to condition him a little, though you've no idea how difficult that is. So much one doesn't know. Wasn't my business to know. I mean, when a child asks you how a helicopter works, or who made the world, well, what are you to answer if you're a beater and have always worked in the fertilizing room? What are you to answer?
I hated Pope more and more. A man can smile and be a villain. Remorseless, treacherous, lecherous, kindless villain.
What do those words mean exactly?
I only half knew. Those words, that strange, strange story, they gave me a reason for hating Pope. They made my hatred more real. They even made Pope himself more real. One day, when I came in from playing, the door of the inner room was open, and I saw them lying together on the bed. Pope was almost black beside her, and one of the plaits of his long hair lay across her throat like a black snake trying to strangle her. I felt empty and cold and sick. And those words repeated and repeated themselves in my head. Remorseless, treacherous, lecherous. And suddenly there were more words. When he is drunk, asleep, or in his rage, or in the incestuous pleasure of his bed. When he is drunk, asleep. The knife for the meat was lying on the floor near the fireplace. I picked it up. When he is drunk, asleep, I ran across the room and stabbed. Oh, the blood, and stabbed again, and Linda was crying, "Look at the blood, look at the blood!" There were 2 cuts on Poppy's shoulder, and he was laughing. Poppy was laughing.
When he was 16, there was a girl, an Indian girl. I don't know what came over John. I mean, everyone belongs to everyone else, after all. But they marry here.
What?
Marry. You know, forever. They say forever in the Indian words. It can't be broken.
No.
Yes. Anyway, the Indian girl married her Indian boy, and John went away to be by himself. I told John, in civilized countries, when a boy wants to have a girl, he just has
Well, of course
her.
he does. Everyone belongs to everyone else. I know. Oh, Ford, I can't wait to get back to the rest house and have a good long Soma holiday.
Oh, Soma.
At the full moon in the Antelope Kiva. Boys go down into the Kiva and come out again, men. When my time came, I went with the others and began to climb down the ladder into the red lighted depths. Not for you, white hair. Not for the son of the she-dog. The other boys laughed, and the men threw stones at me to drive me away into the darkness. I was alone. Always alone.
So am I. Terribly alone.
Are you? I thought that in the other place... I mean, Linda always said that nobody was ever alone there.
Well, I feel like an outsider sometimes, and I suppose I behave like one. You can't imagine how I envy people who take everything for granted. You see, I'm rather different from most people. If one happens to be decanted different, I am I, and I wish I wasn't.
Yes, that's just it. If one's different, one's bound to be lonely. Once I did something that none of the others did. I stood against a rock in the middle of the day, in summer, with my arms out like Jesus on the cross.
What on earth for?
I wanted to know what it was like to be crucified. Hanging there in the sun.
But why?
Why? Well, because I felt I ought to. If Jesus could stand it, and then if one has done something wrong. Besides, I was unhappy. That was another reason. I fainted after a time.
Seems a funny way of curing your unhappiness. Well, maybe it's better than taking Soma. Listen. John, I wonder if you'd like to come back to London with us.
Do you really mean that?
Of course. If I can get permission, that is.
Linda, too.
Linda? Your mother? Well... yes. Yes, why not? Of course.
Oh, to think it should be coming true. What I've dreamt of all my life. Do you remember what Miranda says?
Who's Miranda?
Oh, wonder. How many goodly creatures are there here? How beauteous mankind is. Oh, brave new world. Are you married to her?
My what?
Married.
Oh, no.
Oh, brave new world. Oh, brave new world that hath such people in it.
Yes. Perhaps you'd better wait till you see it. Lenina Crowne's gone on Soma holiday. 6 half-gram tablets, so she won't be back before 5.
Which leaves us 7 hours, Mr. Marx. Do you have much business in Santa Fe?
I'll be back in Malpise long before she wakes up. She wanted a complete and absolute holiday. She will be quite safe here by herself.
Safe as helicopters.
Bernard? Bernard! They haven't gone. Surely they wouldn't. Bernard! Lenina! Bernard! Bernard! Is that you? Lenina. So beautiful.
And I ventured to think, sir, that your Fordship might find the matter of sufficient scientific interest.
Yes, I do find it of sufficient interest, Mr. Marx. Bring these 2 individuals back to London with you.
Your Fordship is aware that I shall need a special permit.
The necessary orders are being sent to the warden of the reservation at this moment. You will proceed at once to the warden's office. Good morning, Mr. Marx.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Lenina. Lenina. Her eyes, her hair, her cheek, her gait, her voice, handless in their discourse.
Oh, that a hand in whose comparison all whites are ink writing their own reproach, to whose soft seizure the signet's down is harsh. Flies on the white wonder of dear Juliet's hand may seize and steal immortal blessing from her lips, who even in pure and vestal modesty still blush as thinking their own kisses sin. Oh, Lenina, darling Lenina. Bernard!
Yes, a public example, Mr. Forster. In the fertilizing room, because it contains our high-caste workers. I've told him to meet me there at 2:30.
Mind you, Marx does his work very well, Director.
I know, but that's all the more reason for severity. The greater a man's talents, the greater his power to lead astray. Consider the matter dispassionately, Mr. Forster, and you'll see that no offence is so heinous as unorthodoxy of behaviour.
Yes.
It strikes at society itself. Yes, at society itself. Ah, there he is.
Good afternoon, Director. You asked me to come and speak to you here.
Yes, Mr. Marx, I did ask you to come to me here. You returned from your holiday last night, I understand?
Yes.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, you must excuse me for interrupting your labours. A painful duty constrains me. The security and stability of society are in danger. Yes, in danger, ladies and gentlemen. This man, this Alpha Plus, to whom so much has been given, and from whom in consequence so much must be expected, has grossly betrayed his trust. By his heretical views on sport and soma, by the scandalous unorthodoxy of his sex life, by his refusal to obey the teachings of our Ford and behave out of office hours like a babe in a bottle, he has proved himself an enemy of society, a subverter, ladies and gentlemen, of all order and stability, a conspirator against civilization itself. For this reason, I propose to dismiss him with ignominy from the post he has held in this centre. I propose forthwith to apply for his transference to a sub-centre of the lowest order, as far as possible removed from any important centre of population. In Iceland, he will have small opportunity to lead others astray by his unfordly example.
Community, identity, stability. Community, identity, stability. Community, identity, stability.
Mr. Marx, can you show any reason why I should not execute the judgment passed upon you?
Yes, I can.
Then show it.
Certainly. But it's in the passage. One moment. Come in, Linda. Don't be shy. You see? There he is.
Do you think I wouldn't recognize him? Of course, I knew you, Tomakin. I should have known you anywhere, among 1,000. But perhaps you've forgotten me. Don't you remember? Don't you remember, Tomakin? It's me, Linda. You're Linda, Tomakin, darling.
Who is this creature? What's the meaning of this monstrous...
I'm your Linda. Linda, don't you remember? You made me have a baby. Yes, you made me have a baby. A baby, and I was its mother. It wasn't my fault, Tomakin. I always did the drill, didn't I? Always. I don't know how it happened, but still, he's been a comfort to me. John? John, he's here.
Yes. Come on out, John.
I do...
Father! My father! Oh.
Bernard's asked me to meet the Savage next Wednesday.
Fanny, I'm so glad. And now you must admit that you were wrong about Bernard. Don't you think he's really rather sweet?
Yes. And I must say I was quite agreeably surprised. Do you know, he told me he had 6 girls last week?
I believe it. The assistant predestinator himself cadged an invitation to one of Bernard's parties. It's the only way to see the Savage, and Bernard's John's accredited guardian. No more talk of alcohol in Mr. Marx's blood surrogate these days.
Oh, Lenina. I just wish I'd been there when the Savage went down on his knees before the director, calling him father. Oh, it's almost too good to be true.
The poor man hasn't set foot in the centre since.
And what about his mother?
Fanny, that's past a joke. That's an obscenity.
Of course, she isn't a real savage. She's been hatched out of a bottle and conditioned like everybody else, so she can't have any really quaint ideas.
She's horrible. Fat and old and bad teeth. Oh, you simply can't look at her without feeling positively sick. I have no desire to see her ever again.
And from what I hear, she has no desire to see us.
It's best if we just leave her like that for the time being, Mr. Savage. The television on and the patchouli tap just dripping. It's quite expensive. And make sure her Soma tablets are within reach.
But she's taking 20 grams a day already.
That's right. That'll finish her off in a month or two. One day the respiratory centre will be paralysed. No more breathing. Finished.
Finished?
And a good thing, too. If we could rejuvenate, of course, it would be different, but we can't. Not her.
But aren't you shortening her life by giving her so much?
Look, Soma may make you lose a few years in time, but think of the enormous, immeasurable durations it can give you out of time. Every Soma holiday is a bit of what our ancestors used to call eternity.
All the same, I don't believe it's right.
Well, if you prefer to have her screaming mad all the time.
And in this factory, each process, as you can see, is carried out by a single Bokanovsky group.
Twins? Identical twins?
Well, yes, as far as possible. We have 83 deltas from the same Bokanovsky group working in cold pressing, for example, and in the foundry, 107, I think, Epsilon Senegalese, all identical, all heat-conditioned.
And those delta females over there with the sandy hair?
33 of them, yes, all within 20 millimetres of an identical height, a metre 69. And we've 2 sets of Gamma Plus dwarves in the assembly room, 2 Bokanovsky groups, 47 in each. The work tables are rather low and the conveyor passes between them. It's so much more efficient.
Oh, brave new world.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, brave new world that has such people in it.
Yes, I can assure you we hardly ever have any trouble with our workers. We always
Excuse me. I think I'm going to be sick.
John?
John!
And this is the statue of R. Ford. Rather ancient, I'm afraid.
Chrome steel. Oh, and that's Lupton's Tower, of course.
Yes, 52 stories. And the school community singery just beyond to the right.
Do you have many twins here? What is it? Bokanovsky?
Oh, no. Eton is reserved exclusively for upper caste boys and girls. 1 egg, 1 adult. It makes education more difficult, of course, but as they'll be called upon to take responsibilities, it can't be helped. I think we're just in time for a history class. Alpha double plus.
Was actually prohibited.
Settle down, please.
Parliament, as it was known,
They're watching a program by our Ford ship, the controller,
records
Mustapha Mond.
Speeches about liberty of the subject. Liberty to be inefficient and miserable. Freedom to be
Miss
a
Cade.
round peg.
Yes, Mr. Marx.
I was thinking, if you're free any Monday, Wednesday or Friday evening, I'm the Savage's guardian, you see. He's curious, you know, quaint, and if you'd like to...
Why, thank you, Mr. Marx. I'd be delighted to come.
The 9 Years' War began in AF 141. Phosgene, chloropicrin, diphenylcyanacine in the Kurfürstendamm and the 8th arrondissement. The explosion of the anthrax bombs was hardly louder than the popping of a paper bag. The 9 Years' War, the great economic collapse. There was a choice between world control and destruction, between stability and chaos.
Yes, class?
Community, identity, stability.
In the end, the controllers realized that force was no good. The slower but infinitely surer methods of ectogenesis, neo-Pavlovian conditioning, and hypnopedia were applied, accompanied by a campaign against the past, by the closing of museums, the blowing up of historical monuments, by the suppression of all books published before AF 150, straight from the mouth of our Ford himself.
Class?
History
is bunk.
The introduction of R. Ford's first T-model was chosen as the opening date of the new era, and the ethics and philosophy of underconsumption.
You will come, won't you? I'm giving a party on Monday.
Yes, I look forward to it.
Everyone will be there. The Archsongster of Canterbury, the Ford Chief Justice, and the Savage, of course. I'd love to have you.
Yes, Mr. Marx, but not here.
And 6 years later, Soma was being produced commercially. The perfect drug. All the advantages of Christianity and alcohol, with none of their defects.
Class, 1 cubic centimetre
cures 10 gloomy sentiments.
With Soma,
thank you, class.
You can take
Carry
a holiday
on.
from
Now,
reality
Mr. Marx,
whenever you
Mr.
like,
Savage, shall we
and
visit
come
the
back
school
without
library?
so much as a headache or a mythology.
Do they read Shakespeare in this school?
I'm sorry?
Do they read Shakespeare?
No, certainly not. Our library contains only books of reference. If our young people need distraction, they can get it at the Feelies. We don't encourage them to indulge in any sort of solitary amusement. Some of our younger children, Mr. Savage, just returning from the Slough crematorium. Death conditioning begins at 18 months, and every tot spends 2 mornings a week at a hospital for the dying. All the best toys are kept there, and they get chocolate cream cakes on death days.
Death days?
Yes, they learn to take dying as a matter of course.
Like any other physiological process, eh, Miss Cade?
Exactly, Mr. Marx.
You drag me, honey, kiss me till I'm in a coma. Hug me, honey, snugly, bunny. Love's as good as summer.
Well, you seem very pleased with yourself.
I am pleased, Fanny. Bernard rang up half an hour ago and asked me if I'd take the Savage to the Feelies this evening.
Which one, the Alhambra? The assistant predestinator says it's absolutely marvellous. A gigantic Negro ravishes a lovely young beta plus blonde, keeps her for 3 weeks all to himself in a helicopter. It's wildly antisocial. And you're taking the Savage. You are a lucky girl, Lenina.
I know. I'm getting invitations to absolutely everywhere. It's wonderful, of course. And yet, in a way, I feel as though I were getting something on false pretenses.
What do you mean?
Well, the first thing they all want to know is what it's like to make love to a savage. And I have to say I don't know.
Lenina!
Honestly, it's true. I wish it weren't.
Oh.
He's terribly good looking, don't you think so?
But doesn't he like you?
Sometimes I think he does, and sometimes I think he doesn't. He always does his best to avoid me, goes out of the room when I come in, won't touch me, won't even look at me. But sometimes if I turn round suddenly, I catch him staring, and then, well, you know how men look when they like you.
Yes, I know.
I can't make it out, Fanny. It's all rather upsetting, because you see, I like him.
Well, you'll have a real chance at the Feelies tonight.
Yes. Hug me, honey, snugly, bunny. Love's as good as summer. Hug me till you drug me, honey. Kiss me till I'm in a coma. Hug me, honey, snugly, bunny. Love's as good as summer. those metal knobs on the arms of your chair. Otherwise you won't get any of the feely effects. Go on.
All right. Lenina! Lenina, I don't think you ought to see things like this.
Things like what, John?
Like this horrible film.
Horrible? I think it's lovely.
It's base, it's ignoble.
Shh, John, please. Honestly, I don't know what you mean. Why do you want to spoil things? There's no need to be shy. I mean, you're terribly good looking, and any other man would have...
Lenina! I can't stand watch this!
John, where are you going? What's that?
Will you please be quiet?
Look, everybody's here. They're all waiting for you. Come out and have some soma.
No! I will not take that stuff. Go away.
But I've asked them on purpose to meet you, John. You know perfectly well.
And you ought to have asked me first.
John! John, you've always come before.
That is precisely why I don't want to come again.
Oh, John, just to please me. Won't you come to please me?
No.
Do you seriously mean it? John!
Yes!
But the Arch-Community Songster of Canterbury's here tonight. What am I going to do?
Go to hell!
Frankly, I resent having been tricked. Yes, tricked by this insignificant fellow with his heretical opinions. Play such a joke on me,
Oh yes, Archsongster, it really is too bad. It may interest you to know that our ex-director was on the point of transferring him to Iceland.
Not far enough, I'd say.
False pretenses, I'd call it. It's a bit thick. When I think that I might actually have been had by a wretched little man who's had alcohol poured into his bottle by mistake.
Yes, it's absolutely true about the alcohol. Someone I know knew someone who was working in the embryo store at the time. She said to my friend, and my friend said...
A creature with a gamma minus physique. It's an outrage.
Archsongster, I'm terribly sorry. I'm really frightfully... Please, sit down. I have another carotene sandwich. Oh, this is awful. Look, he'll be here any moment, I promise. He's just a little... Oh, Ford.
Mr. Marx, please. I think perhaps the time has come for me to leave.
Oh, must you really, Archsongster? It's very early still. I'd hope you'd... I'd so much hope that...
Mr. Marx, let me give you a word of advice before it's too late. A word of good advice. Mend your ways, my young friend. Mend your ways. Now, Miss Keat.
Archsongster?
May I escort you home?
Yes, please.
Well, that's the last time I come here.
Yes, I always knew that Marx was a queer fish.
Alcohol in the blood surrogate, what do you expect?
You know, Bernard, you're more like you were at Malpais. Remember, when we first talked together, outside the little house, when you told me how terribly alone you were. You're like you were then.
Because I'm unhappy again, that's why.
Well, I'd rather be unhappy than have the sort of false, lying happiness you've been having here.
Well, I like that. When it's you who are the cause of it all. Refusing to come down to my party and turning them all against me.
And what sort of friends are there that can turn into enemies on so slight a provocation?
Yes. You're right. I think I'll go and see Helmholtz tomorrow. He's probably the only friend I have left.
May I come with you?
I'm in a bit of trouble, Bernard. You too? It was over some rhymes. Yeah, I was given my usual course of advanced emotional engineering for third-year students. On the use of rhymes in moral propaganda and advertisement, to be precise. Well, this time I thought I'd give them a rhyme I'd just written myself. Pure madness, of course, but I couldn't resist it. What an outcry there was. The principal had me up and threatened to hand me the immediate sack. I'm a marked man, Bernard.
Tell me, what were your rhymes? I'm most interested.
Are you really?
Yes.
Oh. Shut lips, sleeping faces, every stopped machine, the dumb and littered places where crowds have been. It's about being alone, I suppose.
Oh, Ford.
Well, what's wrong with being alone?
It's flatly against all their sleep teaching, that's what. I mean, they'll have had at least 250,000 warnings against solitude.
Yes. But I just thought I'd like to see what the effect would be.
Well, you've seen now.
Anyway, I feel as though I was just beginning to have something to write about, as though I were beginning to be able to use that power I've got inside me, that latent, extra power. Something seems to be coming to me. Do you understand?
I do. Have you read Shakespeare?
Me? No.
Romeo and Juliet. Here.
Hello, Lenina. Like to come to a feelie this evening?
No, thank you, Henry.
Going out with someone else?
No.
You're not feeling ill, are you?
No.
You know, you ought to go and see the doctor. Perhaps you need a pregnancy substitute. Or else an extra strong VPS treatment. I mean, sometimes the standard passion surrogate isn't quite enough.
For Ford's sake, shut up, shut up!
Lenina, it's absurd to let yourself get into a state like this. Simply absurd. And what about a man? One man!
But Fanny, he's the one I want.
As though there weren't millions of other men in the world.
But I don't want them.
How can you know till you've tried?
I have tried.
How many? 1, 2?
No, dozens. But it wasn't any good.
Lenina, you must persevere. Nothing can be achieved without perseverance.
But meanwhile...
Don't think of him.
I can't help it.
Take more Soma, then.
Fanny, I do.
Well, go on.
But in the intervals, I still like him. I shall always like him.
Well, if that's the case, why don't you just go and take him, whether he wants it or no?
But if you knew how terribly strange he was...
All the more reason for taking a firm line.
It's all very well to say that.
Lenina, don't stand any nonsense. Act. Yes, act at once. Do it now.
I'd be scared.
Well, you've only got to take 1/2 gram of Soma first. Anyway, I'm going to have my shower.
Oh, yes. That scene in Capulet's orchard, the lovers' first meeting. How did it go? But soft, what light through yonder window breaks. It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. The poetry is delightful, but I must say, Bernard, the sentiments do make me smile.
Getting into such a state about having a girl. Well, it is ridiculous.
Still, taken detail by detail, what a superb piece of emotional engineering. That Shakespeare fellow makes my stuff look absolutely silly.
What's silly is the idea of the mother and father forcing their daughter to have someone she didn't want. And the girl not saying she was having someone else who she preferred. It's comical.
Read that speech again, John, where her father is bullying Juliet to marry... Is it Paris, is it?
Yes. Day, night, hour, tide, time, work, play. Alone in company. Still my care hath been to have her matched. And having now provided a gentleman of noble parentage...
Fathers and mothers. You can't expect me to keep a straight face about fathers and mothers. And who's going to get excited about a boy having a girl or not having her?
No, I'm sorry. No, it won't do. No, we need some kind of madness and violence. But what? What?
I don't know. Why ask me?
Where can one find it?
What if her eyes were there, they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those...
Hello, John.
Lenina!
You don't seem very glad to see me.
Not glad. If only you knew. Admired Lenina. Indeed, the top of admiration, worth what's dearest in the world.
John.
Oh, you so perfect and so peerless are created of every creature's best.
John.
That's why I want to do something first. I mean, to show you I'm worthy of you. Not that I could ever really be that, but at least to show you I'm not absolutely unworthy. I want to do something, Lenina.
But why should you think it necessary?
I mean, in Malpais, you had to bring her the skin of a mountain lion, or else a wolf when you wanted to marry someone.
Look, there aren't any lions in England.
I'll do anything. Anything you tell me. There be some sports are painful, you know. but their labour delighting them sets off. That's what I feel. I mean, I'd sweep the floor if you wanted.
But we've got vacuum cleaners. It isn't necessary.
No, of course it isn't necessary, but some kinds of baseness are nobly undergone. I'd like to undergo something nobly, don't you see?
But if there are vacuum cleaners
But
and
yes,
that's... Cylon semi-morons to work them, well, really why?
Why? But for you. For you. Just to show that Just to show how much I love you, Lenina.
Oh, John. Do you mean it?
Yes. But I hadn't meant to say so, not until... Listen, Lenina, in Malpais, people get married.
What are you talking about, John?
For always. They make a promise to live together for always.
What a horrible idea.
Lenina, it's like that in Shakespeare too. If thou dost break her virgin knot before all sanctimonious ceremonies may with full and holy right...
For God's sake, John, talk sense. I can't understand a word you say. First it's vacuum cleaners, then it's knots. You're driving me crazy. Oh, answer me this question. Do you really like me or don't you?
Lenina, I love you more than anything in the world.
Then why on earth didn't you say so? Instead of drivelling on about knots and vacuum cleaners and lions and making me miserable for weeks and weeks. If I didn't like you so much, I'd be furious with you. Oh, John. Oh, John, I want you so much. And if you want me too, why won't you...
The murkiest den, the most opportune place, the strongest suggestion our worst genius shall never melt mine honour into lust. Never, never.
John. Oh, please.
Lenina. Lenina, what are you doing? Oh, for those milk paps that through the window bars bore at men's eyes, the strongest oaths are straw to the fire in the blood. Be more abstemious or else... Oh, Lenina!
Oh, darling. Darling, put your arms around me. Hug me till you drug me, honey. Kiss me. Kiss me till I'm in a coma. Hug me. Hug me, snuggle me. You're hurting me. John.
Oh!
John, what is it?
Oh! Impudent strumpet!
Don't, John. Please.
Damn that whore!
Soma. 10 cubic centimetres. Cures 10...
Go! Get out of my sight or I will kill you!
No, please, don't look me in!
Get in there, whore! The wren goes to it, and the small gilded fly does lecture in my sight. The fitchew nor the soiled horse goes to it with a more riotous appetite. Down from the waist are centres, though women all above. But to the waist do the gods inherit. Beneath is all the fiends. Do you hear me, strumpet? Impudent strumpet!
John, do you think I might have my clothes?
No!
Oh, John, I'm terrified, please! Please put them through the ventilator over the door.
Impudent strumpet! The devil luxury with his fat rump and potato finger. Fat rump and potato finger! What is it?
John, don't forget my contraceptive belt.
Hello? Yes. What? Who's ill? Linda. Well, of course it interests me. She's my mother. Where's she been taken? What? Park Lane Hospital for the Dying. Oh, my God!
John! 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 John!
Yes?
See, we have all the modern conveniences. Television at the foot of each bed, a constant companion, you might say. And we change the prevailing room perfume in our galloping senility wards every quarter of an hour. We do try to create a thoroughly pleasant atmosphere. Something between a first-class hotel and a Feely Palace, if you take my
Where
meaning.
is she? She's my mother.
Mr. Savage, we have 20 beds, all occupied, so Linda is dying in company with every modern convenience. I think she's watching the South American Tennis Championships at present. It's the semi-finals. Well, Mr. Savage, I'll leave you to it. I must go. I've got a batch of children coming for death conditioning. Make yourself comfortable. It's a very exciting match.
Linda. Linda. Linda.
John?
Mother. Oh, dearest mother. Don't you remember? Malpais, when you used to sing to me, you sang so beautifully. And when you taught me to read, you remember the tots on the pot, the cats on the mat, elementary instructions for beta workers in the embryo store. Do you remember? And those stories you told me about the other place outside the reservation. That beautiful, beautiful other place. Mother, please try. Try to remember.
Oh, look! Look at this one! Whatever is the matter with her?
Yes, why is she so fat?
Isn't she awful? Look at her.
Let's see. Let me have a look.
Get away!
Ow! What are you doing to that boy? I won't have you striking the children.
Well, keep them away from this bed, then. What are these filthy little brats doing here at all? It's disgraceful.
Disgraceful? What on earth do you mean? They are being death conditioned. If I have any more of your interference with their conditioning, I'll send for the porters and have you thrown out.
This is my mother.
Mr. Savage, there are children here.
Keep them away.
Yes. Well, I have warned you, so mind. Now, come along, children. Let's play a game of Hunt the Zipper.
Linda. Linda?
Hug me till you drug me, honey. Kiss me till I'm in a coma.
Linda.
Poppy. I do so like it.
Linda. Don't you know me?
Oh, Poppy, darling, Poppy.
But I'm John. I'm your son, John. Do you hear me? John!
John! Everyone belongs to everyone.
Linda. What's wrong? What is it, Linda? What is it? Oh, my God. Quick! You've got to help me! Quick!
Mr. Savage, don't shout!
Come quickly, something's happened.
He's crying!
Think of the children, please. You might decondition. Mr. Savage, what are you doing?
You've got to come! Something's happened. I have killed her. Linda's dead. I've killed my mother.
Mr. Savage, this is outrageous. Think of the mischief you're doing to these innocent children. You're undoing all their death conditioning with this disgusting behavior, really. As if anyone mattered that much.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. What have I done? Oh, God.
For God's sake, Mr. Savage, pull yourself together. Can't you behave?
Llena eres de gracia.
Then,
El
children,
Señor es contigo.
who wants a chocolate
Bendita seas entre todas las mujeres, y bendito el fruto de tu vientre, Jesús. Santa María, Madre de Dios, ruega por nosotros los pecadores, ahora y en la hora de nuestra muerte. Amen.
Well, he's not in his rooms. Where can he have got to?
No, I've no idea. It's a bit annoying. I thought we might all nip across to Biarritz, have a spot of dinner.
Oh, and your new sporty copter?
Yes. Yeah, we'll be late if he doesn't come soon. Look, we'll give him 5 more minutes. If he doesn't turn up by then, we'll just have to... Hello, Helmholtz speaking. Lord almighty!
What is it?
Wait. Yes? Yes. Oh, Ford. I don't believe it.
Helmholtz?
Of course. Yes. No, I'll come at once.
What is it?
That was a fellow I know at the Park Lane Hospital. John's there.
What?
But he seems to have gone mad. He's had some sort of brainstorm in the hospital foyer. They're giving out the day's Soma rations to the Deltas, and he's trying to incite them to riot. Bernard, this is urgent.
No shoving, please. No shoving. I shall stop the distribution unless I have good behaviour.
Don't listen to him! Don't take that horrible stuff. It's poison! It's poison! Oh, brave new world! How many goodly creatures are there here? How beauteous mankind is!
Look, let me get on with my distribution, won't you? Now, there's a good fellow. Just let
No!
me... Ow!
Listen, I beg you. Lend me your ears. Throw it all away, that horrible poison. Poison to the soul as well as the body. Throw it away. I come to bring you freedom. Bernard! Helmholtz! Come with me. Yes, my friends. I come to bring you freedom. Do you like being slaves? Do you like being babies? Yes, babies, mewling and puking. Yes, puking. Don't you want to be free and men? Don't you even understand what manhood and freedom are? Come up here with me, Bernard.
He's mad. He's gone quite mad.
I'll teach you. I'll make you free whether you want to or not.
Oh, Ford! He's throwing the sober boxes out of the window! They'll kill him! Ford, help him!
No. Bernard, we've got to. Come on.
What? Helmholtz will be killed!
Freedom! Freedom! Come with me!
I'm here, John! John, I'm here!
It's the police! Help! Help! They'll be killed if you don't hurry!
My friends, what is the meaning of this? Why aren't you all being happy and good together? Happy and good. At peace. At peace. Oh, I do want you to be happy. I do so want you to be good. Please be good, my dearest friends. And Ford keep you. Ford bless you and keep you. Ford bless you and keep you.
Well, Mr. Savage,
Ford bless
will you
and
come
keep
quietly, or must we
Ford
anaesthetize?
bless you and keep you.
Oh.
Ford
I'll come
bless
quietly.
you and keep you.
So, Mr. Savage, you don't much like civilization?
No, I don't. John! Of course, there are some very nice things. All that music in the air, for instance.
Sometimes 1,000 twangling instruments will hum about mine ears, and sometimes voices...
Have you read Shakespeare, too? I thought nobody knew about that.
Almost nobody. It's prohibited, you see, but as I make the laws here, I can also break them. With impunity, Mr. Marx, which I'm afraid you can't do.
Yes, but why is it prohibited?
Because it's old. That's the chief reason. We haven't any use for old things here.
Even when they're beautiful?
Particularly when they're beautiful. Beauty is attractive, and we don't want people to be attracted by old things. We want them to like the new ones. The world is stable now. People are happy. They get what they want, and they never want what they can't get. They're so conditioned that they practically can't help behaving as they ought to behave. And if anything should go wrong, there's Soma, which you go and chuck out of the window in the name of liberty, Mr. Savage. Liberty. Expecting Deltas to know what liberty is.
Well, take those feelies, for instance. They're so stupid and horrible. They don't mean anything. Not like Othello.
They mean themselves. They mean a lot of agreeable sensations to the audience.
But they're stupid. They're told by an idiot.
Well, you're not being very polite to our friend Helmholtz here, one of our most distinguished emotional engineers.
No, John's right. It is idiotic. Writing when there's nothing to say.
Precisely. But that requires the most enormous ingenuity. Works of art out of practically nothing but pure sensation.
It all seems to me quite horrible.
Of course it does. But that's the price we have to pay for stability. Being contented has none of the glamour of a good fight against misfortune, none of the picturesqueness of a struggle with temptation or a fatal overthrow by passion or doubt. Happiness is never grand, Mr. Savage.
I suppose not. But need it be as bad as those twins? Horrible.
I see you don't like our Bokanovsky groups. Well, I assure you, they're the foundation on which everything else is built.
Frankly, I was wondering why have them at all. Those deltas and epsilons. Seeing that you can get whatever you want out of those bottles, why don't you make everybody an alpha while you're about it?
Because we have no wish to have our throats cut. A society of alphas couldn't fail to be unstable and miserable. It's an absurdity. An alpha-decanted, alpha-conditioned man would go mad if he had to do epsilon semi-moron work. Go mad. Or start smashing things up. Alphas can be completely socialized, but only on condition that you make them do alpha work. Isn't that so, Mr. Marx?
Yes, sir.
The optimum population, you see, is modelled on the iceberg. 8/9 below the waterline, 1/9 above.
And they're happy below the waterline?
Happier than above it. Happier than your friends here, for example.
In spite of all that awful work?
Awful? They don't find it so. On the contrary, they like it. No strain on the mind or the muscles. 7.5 hours of mild, unexhausting labour. And then the soma ration and games and unrestricted copulation and the feelies. What more can they ask for? True, they might ask for shorter hours. The Inventions Office is stuffed with plans for labour-saving processes, thousands of them. But we don't want to change. Every change is a menace to stability. Every discovery is potentially subversive. Even science must sometimes be treated as a possible enemy.
What? But we're always saying that science is everything. It's a hypnopedic platitude.
And all the science propaganda we do at college.
Yes, but what sort of science? Our science is just a cookery book with a list of recipes that mustn't be added to except by special permission from the head cook. Well, I'm the head cook now. But I was an inquisitive young scullion once. I started doing a bit of cooking on my own, unorthodox cooking, illicit cooking, a bit of real science, in fact.
Well, what happened?
Very nearly what's going to happen to you young men. I was on the point of being sent to an island.
You can't send me. I haven't done nothing. Oh, please, don't send me to Iceland. Give me another chance. Please, please, give me another chance. Oh, please, your fortune, please. Not to Iceland.
Yes, Controller.
Bring 3 men and take Mr. Marx into a bedroom, give him a good soma vaporization, and then put him to bed and leave him.
No! Please! Not Iceland! No! No, you can't! It's not fair!
One would think he was going to have his throat cut. Whereas, if he had the slightest sense, he'd understand that his punishment is really a reward. He's being sent to an island. That's to say, he's being sent to a place where he'll meet the most interesting set of men and women to be found anywhere in the world. I almost envy you, Mr. Helmholtz.
Then why aren't you on an island yourself?
Well, because, finally, I chose this, and let the science go. And sometimes I rather regret the science. Happiness is a hard master, particularly other people's happiness. But it's universal happiness that keeps the wheels steadily turning. Truth and beauty can't. People used to talk about truth and beauty as though they were the sovereign goods, right up to the time of the 9 Years' War. That made them change their tune. Yes. After the 9 Years' War, people were ready to have even their appetites controlled. Anything for a quiet life. And we've gone on controlling ever since. It hasn't been very good for truth, of course. But one can't have something for nothing. Happiness has got to be paid for, and that's how I paid. By the way, Helmholtz, would you like a tropical climate? The Marquesas, for example, or Samoa, or something rather more bracing.
No, I should like a thoroughly bad climate. I believe one would write better if the climate were bad, if there were a lot of wind and storms, for example.
I like your spirit, Helmholtz. I like it very much indeed. What about the Falkland Islands?
Yes, I think that will do.
Good. Now, if you don't mind, perhaps you would run along and see how poor Mr. Marx is getting on.
Yes.
So, art, science. You seem to have paid a fairly high price for your happiness. Anything else?
Well, religion, of course. There used to be something called God before the 9 Years' War. But I was forgetting. You know all about God, I suppose. Let me show you something. Yes. It's a subject that has always had a great interest for me. You've never read this, for example.
The Holy Bible, containing the Old and New Testaments.
Nor this.
The Imitation of Christ.
Nor this.
The Varieties of Religious Experience by William James.
And I've got plenty more. A whole collection of pornographical books.
But if you know about God, why don't you tell them? Why don't you give them these books about God?
Because they're old. They're about God, hundreds of years ago, not about God now.
But God doesn't change.
Men do, though. Take this book, for example, by a philosopher, if you know what that was.
Yes. A man who dreams of fewer things than there are in heaven and earth.
Quite so. I'll read you one of the things he did dream of. They say that it is the fear of death and of what comes after death that makes men turn to religion as they advance in years. But my own experience has given me the conviction that we turn to God because we feel the need to lean on something that abides, something that will never play us false, a reality, an absolute and everlasting truth. Yes, we inevitably turn to God, for this religious sentiment is of its nature so pure, so delightful to the soul that experiences it, that it makes up to us for all our other losses. Well, my dear friend, one of the numerous things in heaven and earth that these philosophers didn't dream about was this. Us. The modern world. The religious sentiment will compensate us for all our losses. But there aren't any losses for us to compensate. And what need have we of consolation when we have Soma?
Then you think there is no God?
No, I think there probably is one. But God isn't compatible with machinery and scientific medicine and universal happiness. That's why I have to keep these books locked up in the safe. People would be shocked
But
if...
isn't it natural to feel there is a God?
Natural? My dear sir, one believes things because one has been conditioned to believe them.
All the same, it is natural to believe in God. When you're alone, quite alone in the night, thinking about death.
But people are never alone now. We make them hate solitude, and we arrange their lives so that it's almost impossible for them ever to have it.
Do you remember that bit in King Lear? The gods are just, and of our pleasant vices make instruments to plague us. Doesn't there seem to be a God managing these things, punishing, rewarding?
Well, does there? Providence takes its cue from man.
Are you sure? The gods are just. Haven't they used his pleasant vices as an instrument to degrade him?
Degrade him? From what? As a happy, hard-working, goods-consuming citizen, he's perfect.
But if you allowed yourself to think of God, you'd have a reason for bearing things patiently, for doing things with courage.
But there isn't any need for a civilized man to bear anything that's seriously unpleasant. And as for doing things, Ford forbid that he should get the idea into his head. It would upset the entire social order.
What about self-denial, then?
Industrial civilization is only possible when there's no self-denial. Self-indulgence up to the very limits imposed by hygiene and economics. Otherwise the wheels stop turning.
You'd have a reason for chastity.
Chastity means passion. Chastity means neurasthenia. And passion and neurasthenia mean instability. And instability means the end of civilization.
But God's the reason for everything fine and noble and heroic. If you had a God...
My dear young friend, civilization has absolutely no need of nobility or heroism. Where there are wars, where there are temptations to be resisted, objects of love to be fought for or defended, there, obviously, nobility and heroism have some sense. But there aren't any wars nowadays, and the greatest care is taken to prevent you from loving anyone too much. There really aren't any temptations to resist either. And if ever by some unlucky chance anything unpleasant should happen, why, there's always Soma, to give you a holiday from the facts, to reconcile you to your enemies, to make you patient and long-suffering. Anybody can be virtuous now. You can carry at least half your morality about in a bottle. Christianity without tears. That's what Soma is.
What you need is something with tears for a change. Nothing costs enough here.
We prefer to do things comfortably.
But I don't want comfort. I want God. I want poetry, I want danger, I want freedom, I want goodness, I want sin!
In fact, you're claiming the right to be unhappy!
Yes! I'm claiming the right to be unhappy.
Not to mention the right to grow old and ugly and impotent, the right to have syphilis and cancer, the right to have too little to eat, the right to be lousy, the right to live in constant apprehension of what may happen tomorrow, the right to catch typhoid, the right to be tortured by unspeakable pains of every kind!
I claim them all.
Attention, attention. The 1227 flight for Falklands Port Stanley, calling a descension, is now preparing for takeoff. Will all passengers for the 1227 Port Stanley flight please make their way to the heliport lounge on level 6?
Well, I suppose this is goodbye. Yes. Yes, I suppose it is. You know the Savage went to see the controller again?
Huh? What for?
To ask if he mightn't go to an island with us.
Really? And, what did the controller say?
He wouldn't let him. He said he wanted to go on with the experiment.
Oh, so John's still in London?
No, he's gone.
Where?
I've no idea. Disappeared. He bought a few things before leaving, though. Rope, string, nails, matches. Oh yes, some pots and pans, 24 packets of seeds, and 10 kilograms of wheat flour.
I don't believe it. What on earth can he be doing?
Hug me till you drug me, honey. Kiss me till I'm in a coma. Hug me, honey, snugly bunny. Love's as good as summer. Hello?
Lenina, quickly, switch on the radio.
Fanny, I'm having Henry Forster. He'll be here any moment.
Do as I say, Lenina. Switch it on now.
Oh, if you insist.
At an old air lighthouse midway between Putnam and Elstead, where 3 Delta-minus land workers witnessed a truly astonishing spectacle. A young man was standing outside the abandoned lighthouse, stripped to the waist and hitting himself with a whip of knotted cords. A special report now from Primo Melon.
His back was streaked with blood.
Streaked with blood.
We pulled up at the side of the road, and we just stared.
Just stared.
We counted the strokes. After the 8th, he ran to the edge of the wood and he was very sick.
Very sick.
When it finished, he picked up the whip and began hitting himself again. 9, 10, 11, 12.
Well, that was the extraordinary sight witnessed by those 3 land workers. And I'm coming to you live now from the old lighthouse at Elstead. Just a few words, Mr. Savage. Just tell our listeners why you came here. What made you leave London so very suddenly? And that whip. We're all crazy to know about that whip. Something about civilization? What I think of the civilized girl. Just a few words. A very few.
Strumpet! Strumpet! Impudent strumpet! Oh, God forgive me. I'm bad. I'm wicked.
Oh, John.
Stop it!
Lenina, why didn't you answer the door?
Oh, Henry is the savage. It's terrible. It's because of me, Henry. You've got to take me to him.
Well, of course, we're all going. Absolutely everyone. It's better than a feelie, that whip and everything.
Oh.
It's almost as good as the sperm whale's love life. By Ford, that says
Henry,
something.
please.
Lenina, calm down. Have half a gram.
Go away! Leave me alone!
What about the whip?
Go away, do you hear? By God, I'll give you the whip! Why don't you leave me alone? What do you want with me? What is it you want? We want the whip! We want the whip! We want the whip! We want it! We want the whip!
John! John! Oh, this is terrible. We've got to save him, Henry. Henry! Stop this! Stop this at once! John! John, it's me, Lenina! John!
Fitz you! Damned whore!
John, darling!
Stop it! Fry, Lecturer, fry! The flesh! Kill it! Kill it! Kill it!
Oh, John, please no! Please no!
I'll kill you! For Owanawilona, who made the great fog, who made the whole world out of fog, for Earth Mother and Sky Father, for Ayuta and Marcelima, for Jesus and Pukong. I must hurry. Hurry before the sun rises. Fasten the rope. For Our Lady of Acoma, for the great eagle. I must hurry. The window. Yes. The window for the sun. For the rising sun. For the first rays. Yes. Must hurry now. Must hurry. For the sun. Eyes. Look your last.
That's as much as I know, Your Lordship.
And where is he now?
Well, he must have come back here, to the lighthouse.
Savage!
Mr. Savage? I don't think it's locked, sir. Mr. Savage?
Savage! Where are you?
Oh, Ford! Oh, Ford Almighty!
Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Gary Cady was the Savage. Jack Klaff was Mustapha Mond. Moir Leslie was Lenina Crowne. Jonathan Tafler was Bernard Marx. And Francis de la Tour was Linda. Sean Pertwee was Helmholtz Watson. Hugh Dickson was the director of Hatcheries. Nigel Carrington was Henry Forster. Jane Whittenshaw was Fanny Crowne. Susan Sheridan was the president of worship. Andrew Wincott was Benito Hoover. Petra Markham was the headmistress of Eton. Timothy Carlton was the Archsongster of Canterbury. Mark Straker was Primo Mellon. Joanna Myers was the nurse. Richard Pierce was the boy. And Walter Acosta was the Spanish guide. Other parts were played by members of the cast. Brave New World was dramatized from Aldous Huxley's novel by Stephen Mulrine. The music was composed and performed by Wilfredo Acosta. Technical presentation was by Roger Daines, Wilfredo Acosta, and Keith Graham. The director was Marilyn Imrie.